Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 15. Episode 15 of the video version of Walking Down the Warwick Road. Obviously, we've done a couple Twitter Spaces in between as well. So I guess sort of 17 installments, if you will. But 15 of the video version, of course, joined as always by my co-host Pete Molyneux and resident guests Roy Kavanagh and Roger Gardner. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, good. Well,
thank you.
Good, thanks, Tim. And you?
Doing well. It's an early one over here for me, but it works out well, and have the rest of the day to go out and enjoy the sunshine. So, anyway, another good episode coming our way today for everybody, and of course, as always, we want to encourage people to get involved. So if you're watching, please get your comments in. If you want to respond to us on Twitter as well, you can tweet us, and if the tweets come in, I'll read them out during the episode. But today we look back at United's most crucial last gasp winners. And Pete, we obviously through the history of this club, I mean, there's so many last minute winners that you could have picked from. I mean, we could be here for days. So what were the sort of the parameters that led us to pick these 8 that we're going to focus on today?
Well, you're spot on, Tim, that our United's history is littered with last-minute winners. And particularly under Fergie in those 23 years, last-minute winners became Manchester United's hallmark. The United teams never knew the meaning of the word defeat until the final whistle blew. Sadly, we've not witnessed too much of that spirit in the last 12 months, but I've no doubt Ten Hag, when he weaves his magic, will bring it back. But we thought we'd look today at not just last-minute winners or last gasp winners. It's not easy to say, but the most crucial last gasp winners, with the emphasis on crucial. It's the impact that late goal had on the match and had on that season and had on our history. And some that had to hit the cutting room floor were, well, at least 3 against City in recent times. Scholes, he got a last-minute winner at the Etihad. Van Persie did. Owen got that marvellous one in the 4-3 in 2009. Forlan got a last-minute one against Chelsea. Martial in the Everton Cup semi-final in 2016. Ferdinand got a last-minute winner at Liverpool, and so on. And you can go back to pre-Fergie times for last-minute winners by Law and Kiddo, etc., and the Babes. But we're going for the 8 most crucial, and we've chosen 2 each, and then we'll do a special one at the end. But let's see if we convince people listening or viewing that we've chosen the right 8.
Yes, indeed, and I'm sure the people viewing will have their own take on things, and I'm sure that they'll be quick to let us know if they think we've missed any that should be included, and rightly so. I mean, there's so many to pick from. Everyone will have their own different opinion. This is just the 8 that we've picked out. So, right, well, let's get into it. And for the first one, we're going to come to Roger. So, Roger, you're up with a little bit of FA Cup magic, I think.
Yeah. So the scorer of this goal in 1983 was Frank Stapleton. And there's a caption, so you can see this was in the 6th round of the FA Cup. It was played at Old Trafford, of course, in front of the biggest crowd of the season anywhere in Britain, which was over 58,000. So I think this was right bang in the middle of a plum time for Ron Atkinson. United had got a trip to Wembley planned in the League Cup in a couple of weeks' time, and they were still going for the league title as well. But the FA Cup has always had a place in United supporters' hearts, and this game was no exception. So there's a picture of Big Frank. You can see he had a decent season as well in 1983. He hit 14 goals in the league, 19 overall. And the week before this game that we're going to talk about here, he'd scored 2 in the derby against City. So he was pretty popular. And there you can see a ticket, £1.80 to see a great game of football, as did 58,000 people, as I say. And there weren't too many other crowds of 58,000. I think United only had 2 further crowds of 58,000 as the capacity over the years gradually reduced before recent redevelopments. So the date, as you can see, was the 12th of March. Everton came to Old Trafford. They were managed by Howard Kendall, who was building this great Everton team that would probably get better in a couple of years. So it was a good opportunity for United to get one over on them. And they did do just that. On the day, unfortunately, Brian Robson wasn't available. So United's midfield of that day consisted of Remy Moses, Arnold Muren, Ray Wilkins, and Steve Coppell. I can remember all the United team from this era very well indeed. They had Ulverston and Duxbury as fullbacks, with Gordon McQueen and Kevin Moran as centre backs, with Gary Bailey, who we've talked about in a previous podcast as well, in between the sticks. United had numerous chances in the game. Norman Whiteside had 2 good chances towards the end, but it had this look about it just going to a replay, which would have been against Everton, of course, at Goodison on the Tuesday night. Jim Arnold was actually in goal for Everton on that day, not Neville Southall. He wasn't the popular first choice. And Everton had Graham Sharp and Adrian Heath up front. They brought good saves out of Gary Bailey. And this goal that actually went in for United right almost with the last throw of the game, throw of the dice from Ron Atkinson, happened an incredible 1 minute 40 seconds into injury time. So the goal was actually credited in the 90th minute. I don't know if we're ready to see this goal now, Tim.
Yeah, we can go ahead and and show the clip.
Ulverston. Here's Macari again for Stapleton. It's one from the books of fairy tales. We've had 2 minutes of injury time, and the fairy tale aspect comes from Macari. It was his header there, and Stapleton's volley. The man who can do nothing wrong in terms of Manchester at the moment, Frank Stapleton, the hero of 2 Manchester derbies this season. He's taken United surely into the semi-finals of the FA Cup.
So there you can see Lou Macari actually heading the ball down, and there's a picture of Super Lou. Probably the least likely person, given that he was only 5'6", I believe, to actually head the ball down for a big player like Frank Stapleton. But the story there was United had a corner just before that play that you saw there, and Ron Atkinson thought he would gamble and make a substitution. And he took off the nearest player that was by the touchline, which was Mike Duxbury, and basically said to Lou Macari, are you fit enough to do this? Because Lou hadn't been playing very much in the 83 season. Lou said, yeah, of course, I'm fit enough to do this, knowing that he probably only have to play probably a couple of minutes at the outside. And the rest, as they say, is history. I'm not sure I would have fancied United in the replay at Goodison. It was always a really tough place to go. And Everton had a good record at home that season. But the story is set. It was headed down there by Lou Macari, and a beautiful finish from Stapleton. The ball took an age to come down, and the rafters went from Old Trafford there. And that was how the game finished, and a great memory for me.
It was indeed some strike indeed from Frank Stapleton too, with that sort of the outside of the boot curling away from the keeper into the corner. Tremendous strike on the volley. Well, thanks for that. Thanks for that, Roger. Tremendous goal, and you could hear almost the tangible relief in the crowd when that goal went in, couldn't you? Right,
Oh, absolutely.
right. So over to Roy, and Roy's going to take us back to 1956.
Yeah, Tommy Taylor, Manchester United versus Blackpool, Saturday the 7th of April 1956. Division 1, not the Premiership, Division 1 game at Old Trafford. Now, picture the scene. The Busby Babes were on the cusp of their first title and playing the only side that could really catch them in Blackpool, who had Stanley Matthews playing for them on the wing. Blackpool on the morning were actually 6 points behind United, but they had a game in hand, 2 points for a win in those days, of course. So if they'd won the game in hand, that's 4 points. So if they won the game at Old Trafford, the lead could have been down to 2. And just an interesting one, the following Saturday's match, United were due to play Sunderland away, and they knew they would be without 3 players because Roger Byrne, Duncan Edwards, and Tommy Taylor were selected for the England-Scotland game in Glasgow. And, so we really needed to win this game. And I got an uncle came round to my house. I'll never forget this. It wasn't an all-ticket game. A lot of games in those days weren't all-ticket, and it was except for like the 2,000 seats on the main stand side. And the gates fluctuated. Roger and I were talking about gates before the chat started, and the gates, United's average that season might only be about 30 to 35,000. And indeed, the game after this Blackpool one, when the trophy was presented, it went from 62,000 to 40,000. So gates really fluctuated. But my uncle came round, I can remember, just after 12 o'clock and said, did I fancy going? Because sadly, my late father had lots of illnesses thrust on him after the war, being a prisoner of war with the Japanese. And I was delighted. I mean, I was coming up to me, I was 9, 10 in a couple of months' time. So off we went, walked down Odsall Lane, got my programme on the corner there of the Trafford Road Bridge. Only the one bridge in those days, the swing bridge, over the bridge, into the park, and wow, the crowds were tremendous. Anyhow, we made ourselves down the side of what would be United Road to go to the towards the Stretford end, and some of the gates were already shut. But luckily, we got to the Stretford end, and one of the gates that wasn't shut was the junior gate. So my uncle said, "You get in there." And as I got to the actual turnstile, he come across, pushed me aside, held my hand, and said to the bloke, "I can't let him come in on his own. He's only 9. Come on." And he gave him a bit more than what the price was for the 2 of us. And he went in, I climbed over, and in we went. Now, those days, the Stretford end was this big, huge, it's hard for people to imagine. Imagine today, you're stood in front of what the Stretford end, and it's totally open all the way up. And of course, the higher you go, at the back, you've got to climb up all these stairs to get up to the top. And as we got in, I don't honestly remember many people behind us. So the gates must have just been banged shut, literally. I don't remember really many behind us. We climbed all these stairs and we got to the top. And the first thing I saw was the behinds of blokes. I mean, and there was no gangways where, yeah, come on, yeah, walk down there and all that. It was an impossible view for me, really. And I virtually saw nothing of the game, personally. But I was inside the game, inside the ground, when United actually won the title. The game started badly. Blackpool scored in the first couple of minutes, and Taylor got injured. Big clash of heads, and he had to go off. No substitutes in those days, of course. So at half time, we were 1-0 down. Interestingly, Matt Busby wasn't at the match. There'd been a family bereavement, and Matt had to stay behind in Scotland. And he was getting a report of the game on a radio link with Walmsley, one of the top journalists at the time. Again, it just puts into motion today where everything's 24/7. It's in front of you. And there's the manager of Manchester United at the end of a telephone listening to the commentary from a journalist for the game that's going to settle the title. Clogging mud on the pitch, not like they are today. Second half, we got a penalty after about an hour. And Roger Byrne missed about 3 penalties since Christmas. Luckily, they hadn't been vital, to affect the game. But he just threw the ball to Johnny Berry, little Johnny Berry, who I have to tell you was a great number 7. I know time moves on, and we talk of the great number 7s we can all remember, which will probably go back to Georgie Best. But the players before them, Johnny Berry was a top player. Berry put the ball down, slotted it in. We were attacking the scoreboard end in those days, 1-1. And there's a euphoric picture on YouTube of it, of Edwards just jumping up and getting the ball and just booting it in the air. He looked immense, Edwards. He really did. And what was he, 18, 19? But 1-1 would have suited us, but no, keep going. And again, Berry took man on, crossover, and George Palm, the Scottish goalie, sort of fumbled the ball. And unlike Taylor's goals, which were generally up and bang or either foot, he sort of slid in and nearly kneed the ball into the net. 2-1. The Busby Babes had won their first title and celebrated long into the night at the Midland Hotel.
Right. Well, let's see some moving pictures from this game.
And it's a penalty for Manchester United. There's Roger Byrne to take the pen. And it's Berry took the penalty, and that makes the score 1-1. And now United, encouraged by that penalty goal, come back. Now it's Blackpool all going through, only for them to be broken up by Duncan Edwards. Edwards through to Violet. Now there's a chance for United. There's Pegg with it out on the left wing. All the United forwards up. Violet. Cross to Berry, it comes on the right wing. Blackpool defence trying the offside game. Berry going through with it by himself. Cross it comes and Palms made a perfect hit. It's a big hit. It's a goal. It's a goal. This is the goal that should give them the championship.
So tremendous stuff, yeah.
And I was at the other end, searching between legs and
trying to find a
view. Seeing more then than it did then, but it was in the ground.
Good call, Roy. Good call.
Yeah.
Tim, what's your first contribution to United's most crucial last cap winners?
Well, we are headed to 1996 now. And May 11th, 1996, the FA Cup final at Wembley. United coming into this game had just won a third title in 4 years, a few days before. And it was also their third appearance in a row in the FA Cup final, obviously beating Chelsea and then losing to Everton the year before. Liverpool and United coming into this game were the top 2 scoring sides in the league that season. So I think, maybe coming in, there was a sense that there was going to be goals, but as cup finals generally go sometimes, it started off with some intensity, but then sort of petered out, I suppose, with both the players on both sides doing their jobs and limiting chances as the game went on. Roy Keane was immense in this game. Put in a man of the match performance. He really was terrific. He got himself about. So you can see there a little bit of a dust up with Robbie Fowler. But just a tremendous performance by Roy Keane. And then, of course, as it tends to go, you just need that one moment of brilliance, that one moment of magic, don't you? And it was the 85th minute. David James was off a cross that came in off a corner. David James came to clear, came to punch, and it fell to the King. If I get the video here.
Scholes in the 6-yard area. 5 behind. James gets there just first. Cantona! There is to be a memorable end to a poor cup final. James didn't quite get there, punched down.
So the amazing thing for me about that goal is just the amount of power he was able to generate stepping back. I mean, that's such a tough skill. He's moving away from the goal. So to get it, to be able to arrow it through, the defenders like that was just incredible for me. Tremendous strike.
And there was only the narrowest of gaps to get. If you look at the number of defenders in between him and the goal, it was a real eye of a needle stuff that he threaded that ball through. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Perfect balance the way he leant back and push.
Yeah, indeed. Tremendous strike. It was Rach is in with a comment. What a strike. Hi Rach, how are you? Thank you for getting involved. It was a tremendous strike. And another comment in here for you, Pete. It looks like Steve Bruce against Wednesday was the first real classic last grasp goal for me. Still love watching it. P.S. It's Colin Perry here. Peter, great show.
Hi, Cole. Well, yes, you're ahead of the game because we're going to come to that one. Very short, 10 out of 10. Tim, just before on that Liverpool one, the cup final. Of course, it's always good to beat Liverpool, even if it was a kickabout on a car park. It'd be good to beat Liverpool, but to beat them in an FA Cup final, tremendous. That was the cup final of the white suits or the cream suits that the Spice Boys wore.
Yeah.
But significantly in United's history, it was our second double.
Yes.
In the English League and the English FA Cup, and we became the first English team in history to win the double twice. I'm fairly sure with that one.
Indeed.
We were the first English team to win the double twice. So much to celebrate, even though, as the commentator said, it wasn't a great cup final. It was just a great ending.
Yes,
I assume we're the first one to do it 3 times as well, Pete.
Yes, we were. So which we'll come to. let me catch up with Colin Parry.
Colin has a tremendous segue there, Pete, because we're going back another 3 years from the Liverpool one, staying in the 90s. Where are we headed now, Pete?
Well, okay, so we're going to the exact date would be the 10th of April 1993. So just picture the scene. It is spring 93, and England has been blighted by one of the longest droughts in history. There've been 26 years since Manchester United were last crowned champions of England, and we were all pulling our hair out then. Any Reds, Manchester Reds and beyond were desperate to see Manchester United win the league just one more time in their lifetime if they could. Fergie had come, he'd survived the tricky 3 years. He'd won the League Cup, he'd won the FA Cup, and even the Cup Winners' Cup. But after 7 years, he's still not delivered the Holy Grail. And a year earlier, the title looked odds on for United, but Cantona and Leeds broke our hearts. So we move on to 93, and by then, Eric Cantona was now at Old Trafford, and United were in the title race as the run-in approached. The big teams weren't challenging, ironically. In recent years, it had been Liverpool, Leeds and Arsenal who'd won the title. But the last, as the run-in appeared, it was Manchester United, it was Villa and Norwich. And on the 5th of April, United won 3-1 at Norwich to blow them away and climb to second. And 4 days later, I think Norwich lost at Spurs 5-1 and they were out of it. So we come to Easter Saturday, the 10th of April, 1993. United are playing Sheffield Wednesday at home. Villa are playing Coventry at home. Both 3 o'clock kickoffs. Easter the previous year was where we'd bottled the running. And in fact, in those previous 25 years when we hadn't won the league, where we did lose it in the running, we did bottle it. It was in those last few games. So we had this big psychological thing to overcome about mastering a running. Sheffield Wednesday was something of a bogey side for United in the 80s and 90s. Anyway, both games were 0-0 well into the second half, up to about 60 minutes gone. And we were getting the score through radios. You didn't have the phones then to get updates. You had somebody with a transistor in the ground that would tell you what was happening at Villa Park. Both 0-0. Then Mike Peck, the referee, suffered an Achilles injury and he had a lot of treatment. Eventually was carried from the field and replaced by his linesman. And the delay lasted 7 minutes. A lot of people forget this, especially people that don't like Manchester United. The delay lasted 7 minutes. Shortly after play resumed, the substitute ref gave Sheffield Wednesday a penalty. I think Ince brought down Waddle. And John Sheridan stepped up to convert it. And that was after we'd played 65 minutes of our game. So full-time arrived at Villa Park and they'd only drawn. Now, that would have been a great result for us normally. But with us losing, they'd actually gone one more point ahead. So it was desperate stuff at Old Trafford. We threw everything at Sheffield Wednesday. We knew the ref's injury had gone on for a long time, but we didn't know how long. You didn't have an official then putting up an electronic board or a slick broadcaster to announce how many minutes were left. You just had to go by whatever the referee was adding on. Anyway, 3 minutes into injury time, Steve Bruce scored from a corner with a powering header to make it 1-1. And to be fair, at that point, most of us would have taken that draw. But there was still another 3 or 4 minutes to play. We didn't know that. But at the end of those 3 or 4 minutes, right at the death, with United pressing and pressing, we got another corner. And we didn't even know if there was time enough to take it. Giggs takes it, but it's cleared out. And Giggs picks it up again right on the left wing. But he overhits the ball in crossing it. And it almost going out for a corner on the United, for a throw-in on the United road. But Gary Pallister races over and just about keeps it in, turns round, scoops the ball, a right-footed cross, into a packed Sheffield Wednesday area. And there's Steve Bruce again. And for the younger listeners or viewers, Steve Bruce was a centre-half, not a forward. To power in his second goal and a winner. And Roger said before how the crowd went ballistic with that last-minute winner in the Cup against Everton. Well, in 93, 10 years later, actually the roof couldn't come off the Stretford end because we were still rebuilding the Stretford end. But if there had been a roof, it would have come off because people were wide-eyed with joy and delight dancing around. United won 2-1. It took us to the top of the league. It was the cornerstone then, I think, of the next 20 years for United dominating English football. It began Fergie time, there's no doubt. We had 7 wins on the bounce to win the league by 10 points, and we broke that psychological barrier that had been a problem for 25 years. We went on and won the league, we got doubles, we won the treble, and then we got 13 league titles after that, and another 2 European Cups, 2 World Club Championships. It all started with that goal against Sheffield Wednesday, something like 7 minutes into injury time.
The Brian Kidd one gets me all the time because I just love the look that Fergie sort of gives him. He notices him out of the corner of his eyes. Just, what are you doing? but wow, tremendous. And like you touched on, Pete, like the volume in the ground when that goal went in was just incredible scenes. And certainly a point to be made that is, the last gasp winner that really kicked us on to the dizzying heights that we saw under Fergie.
Yeah.
Right. So we're coming back to Roger, and we're going back to, or no, we're moving ahead just a year. Where are we headed next, Raj?
We're going to the 10th of April, 1994. That was a Sunday. It was an FA Cup semi-final between Manchester United and Oldham Athletic. And I have to confess, I hope you guys don't criticise me too much here. It wasn't a last gasp winner, it was a last gasp equaliser. So hopefully you'll let me off with this one. United had come across Oldham Athletic quite a few times in the early days of the Premier League. And in fact, Ferguson, when he won his first FA Cup in 1990, overcame Oldham twice actually in the FA Cup run. There was the first game at Main Road where Oldham equalised right at the death to force it to a replay, with United winning the replay. So this was on the route to the double in 1994. The game was played at Wembley, not at somewhere like Villa Park or Hillsborough, which was quite often the case back in the day. The FA decided after Hillsborough to give more tickets to fans and hosted at Wembley. Though interestingly, only 56,399 were actually at the game, which was a bit low really when you consider it was a local derby and what it would have meant to Oldham, because Oldham had never actually made it through to the FA Cup final. So it would have been a massive moment in their history for them as well. And in fact, even for the replay, which was played at Main Road, so they didn't have the replay at Wembley, only 32,000 people turned up. So anyway, on to the game itself. United were in good form in the league in 1994. Unfortunately, going into the semi-final, Eric Cantona wasn't there because he was suspended, and Dion Dublin deputised up front with Mark Hughes. And to be honest, it was a typical Oldham Manchester United match, really, of the early 90s. In the 90 minutes, it was scrappy, and probably Paul Ince for United had the best chance with a header. Graham Sharp, who we saw actually in the Manchester United Everton game from 1983, he'd moved across Lancashire to play for Oldham, and he pulled out two very good saves out of Peter Schmeichel. We've raved about Peter Schmeichel in previous podcasts, and interestingly, if you go over his name on an iPhone, it says no replacements available. Spell his name wrongly. So there really was only one Peter Schmeichel. Anyway, we got to extra time, and Mark Hughes got onto the end of an Irwin cross and forced John Hallworth into a great save. And I actually saw this game, and I thought United would just roll out a winner. I think, obviously, on from the Sheffield Wednesday game, that gave us a lot of confidence that Fergie would actually deliver, and we did deliver that 93 title. United had become more and more believable. Although, what I would say is in the FA Cup, apart from 1990, Ferguson hadn't had a lot of luck. We went out the FA Cup to Sheffield United the previous season. Anyway, so Brian Robson came on for United in extra time in one of his last appearances. Of course, he wouldn't make the final. And in fact, I don't think Ferguson even picked him for the subs bench. Anyway, there were some real tackles flying in everywhere. And another United favourite was about to come on for Oldham in the shape of Andy Ritchie. Obviously, Joe Royle thought, well, we may as well throw Andy Ritchie on and see if he can get something. Anyway, just before he was about to do that, a player called Rick Holden, who was a fullback for Oldham, took a corner, and the ball came across to Peter Schmeichel. And on this occasion, he fumbled it, and fullback Neil Poynton volleyed it straight into the net with 14 minutes of extra time remaining. Neil Poynton was one of those experienced players that Oldham had brought in, and in fact had a cup winners medal from his Everton days. Graham Sharp went close again for Oldham. They were obviously growing in confidence, and I think, you know, if they'd got a second, that would have been it. It was one of those crowd goals where half the crowd thought it had gone in, but he'd actually hit the side netting. However, it was a typical Mark Hughes volley that saved United literally in the very last minute of the game, and United had just decided to pump it forward. Brian McClare flicked it towards Mark Hughes, and it was a typical finish from the Welshman, and United avoided what would have been a second Wembley defeat within a month, having lost a couple of weeks or so previously to Ron Atkinson's Aston Villa. So, as was typical of United in the replay, Andre Kanchelskis came back, and United steamrollered Oldham very much so. But what I can say, it wasn't a last gasp winner, but it was a last gasp equaliser. And without this equaliser, there would definitely not have been a date with Chelsea on the 14th of May, and there wouldn't have been a double that would have been the second double, as we've said. So a great moment from Sparky, who is still to this day in my top 5 United players.
Brilliant. Terrific summarization there, Raj. Take a look at the goal.
To go. It's come to Lee Sharp. Milligan has to get the head on this. Beckford is needed. He wasn't there. It's hooked back in for Hughes. It's there! They didn't get the ball away, Oldham. And Manchester United have saved it in the last minute. Extraordinary stuff. It wasn't cleared properly. And look at Mark Hughes, the volleying specialist. But he's never left it as late as that. And he rescues Manchester United with a brilliant strike round Fleming.
Wow, great goal.
Tremendous goal. What a volley.
Great.
It was trademark, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Certainly was. Indeed. You're on mute, Pete. Pete, your microphone's muted.
Yeah,
There you go.
I knew it was a bad idea to turn it off.
Turn it off again.
I knew that wouldn't be unanimous either. Sorry, what I was going to just say quickly is, in these run-ins when Fergie was going for leagues and cups, it's funny if we had a dip, you get to a point during the run-in where confidence can shatter like a glass. It's happened to many teams over the years, and we'd started to wobble before that Oldham semi-final, Rog. I think we'd lost to Blackburn, or we were playing Blackburn soon after that, and that was a tough game in the league. The game after that Oldham game would have been Leeds away, and that would have been tough to go into, having lost the semi-final. As it turned out, the Leeds game was postponed because we had to play this replay of the semi-final, which we won, as you say. And then the week after, the confidence seemed to have come back in the team, and we went to Leeds and won, and carried on and won the league comfortably and the cup. But United fans going into that game, we felt we were just wobbling, even though a great side it was, the dream team. There was a wobble there, and I think if we hadn't got that equaliser, it could have been like the season after '95 when we just lost out on the league and the cup. So fine margins on these, and Mark Hughes, who never used to score tap-ins, saved the day.
Yeah,
indeed. Well, from walking down the Warwick Road to walking down the main road, Roy, why were we going to Main Road?
Yeah, Johnny Berry, Wednesday, the 6th of February, 1957. What a poignant date, by the way, 6th of February, 12 months before the utter disaster that befell us. Manchester United v Bilbao, European Cup quarter-final, second leg at Main Road, because our lights were just in finalisation of being completed. Our lights were actually opened at the end of March 1957 in a league game with Bolton Wanderers, just prior to what would be the semi-final of the European Cup against Real Madrid. But after memorable victories over the Royal Sporting Club Anderlecht, 10-0 at Main Road, 12-0 aggregate, 3-2 on aggregate against Dortmund Borussia. That was the score in the first leg at Main Road, and 0-0 in Dortmund. United were drawn against Bilbao in the quarterfinals. I'm sure actually Matt Busby would have liked, not because he was afraid of Bilbao, but Bilbao had to play Honved. And I think Matt Busby would have liked to see his Busby Babes actually pitted against the Hungarian maestros of Honved. Problem was that Honved, Hungary rather, had the uprising in 1956, shades of today with the Ukraine when the Russian army invaded Hungary, and the Honved team actually just dissipated, and they were playing all over the place. So their tie with Bilbao, they obviously played one game in Bilbao, but their home game was actually in Brussels, and they drew 3-3, but they'd lost the first leg. And I think Matt wanted to see his team against the likes of Puskás and whatever. But Bilbao were an outstanding side. What's often forgotten is that they were in this European Cup as the champions of Spain, and Real Madrid were only in that European Cup that season because they'd won the previous season's game. And as you can see, those beautiful pictures from sunny Spain for the first day in January, when United arrived in a blizzard and a snowstorm, and they played the game and lost the match 5-3, which was thanks to a magnificent goal by Billy Whelan in the last minutes of that game. So it was going to be a difficult match at Main Road. And for once, this was an all-ticket game. The crowd officially was 65,000, because the Dortmund game in the previous round was officially 75,000, but they reckoned there was thousands and thousands more in. So they made the Bilbao game all ticket, and it was 65,000, and the noise and the atmosphere was one to behold. The second game played over there, everyone willing United to win, but despite having 2 goals disallowed, it was just on half time when Dennis Weiler, tremendous footballer Dennis, got United's first goal. And the second half was panning out, and then in the 70th minute, United made the 2-0 in front. Tommy Taylor scored, made it 5-5 on aggregate. And again, something else that would be often forgotten nowadays, but in those days, there was no extra time, no penalties. So the score at 2-0 would have left the match at 5-5 and would have entailed a third match, which I'm pretty sure was going to be held in Paris. And then with about 4 minutes to go, Johnny Berry and Tommy Taylor, for some reason, Tommy Taylor seemed to take the centre half out with him, and he went out to the right wing, and from the position where Berry normally would be. And Tommy sent the ball in, a bit like Pallister did in the final that we just saw against Liverpool. And there in the middle, this time unmarked, because the centre half had gone out with Taylor, was little Johnny Berry, who, as I mentioned in the previous thing, was a very much unheralded footballer for Manchester United. And cool as a light, bang in the back of the net, 3-0, 6-5 on aggregate, and United were through to the semi-finals of the European Cup. Our first appearance in it, only the second European Cup competition, and as I say, that's why Real Madrid were actually in it. So Bilbao were a really great side. They'd won the Spanish Championship, over Real Madrid, and of course that got us into the semi-final and into playing at Old Trafford under the floodlights in the European Cup against Real Madrid. Perhaps that's a subject for another show, as our other European Cup semi-finals. But a great night, but very poignant 6th of February 1957, one of United's great victories 12 months before the greatest loss any football club has suffered.
Indeed. Let's take a look at some of the moving pictures.
Floodlights at Main Road, Manchester. Having lost 3-5 in Bilbao, United must beat their opponents by 3 clear goals to reach the semi-finals of the European Cup. They begin with an opening offensive that already seems to point the way to victory. But Atletico de Bilbao are renowned as a crack Spanish 11, and Manchester knows it only too well. 4 minutes before half-time, Manchester's Violet goes through, and it's a goal! After the interval, we saw some dangerous Bilbao attacks, and we were glad we weren't defending the Manchester goal. United weren't long in reversing the situation, taking the ball into Bilbao's half. Jones gives Carmelo a bump, but Bilbao's goalie isn't easily put off, although he can't keep it up forever. Manchester's second came from a free kick, Taylor doing the rest. He and Berry made the third, and Manchester was set for the semi-finals.
Tremendous stuff.
Great.
Right. From 1957, we move 50 years into the future to 2007, and a game against Aston Villa. 2009. I think I said 2007. 2009 against Villa, April 5th. And the context for this game was coming into it. Well, we're just to look the 2 games before this game against Liverpool and Villa. Liverpool and Fulham. It had actually had a 7-point lead, cruising, a game in hand. And then all of a sudden, they end up losing. They get thrashed by Liverpool 4-1, and then they lose to Fulham. So coming into this game, Liverpool had actually played earlier in the day and were actually top of the league at kickoff when this game kicked off, and or had played or the day before maybe. But Liverpool were top of the league at kickoff of this game, if I'm correct on that. And United were missing some key players. Obviously, Rooney was suspended. He had been suspended the previous game, sent off against Fulham. Berbatov was injured. Tevez was coming back from international duty. Vidic and Ferdinand were out as well, if I believe. So this was, if you want to call it, a weakened United side, although they did still have the likes of Ronaldo. Of course, as I touched on, with Tevez coming back from international duty, but not necessarily being 100% with that game. And then when they looked at the bench in terms of needing a goal, there really, in terms of established forwards, there really wasn't anybody that United could look to. So United got the scoring, opened the scoring in the 14th minute. United were up 1-0. And then John Carew and Gabi Agbonlahor took a shock lead for Villa, 2-1. And then Ronaldo got us back to 2-2 in the 80th minute. And then Fergie looked to bring on a young Italian who had scored a hat-trick against Newcastle in the reserves the previous Wednesday by the name of Federico Macheda. And it was a player that I'm sure not too many players, unless you followed the reserves or United's youth system, maybe didn't have a great knowledge of when he first when they first saw his name on the team sheet. But he pops up with a winner in 90+3 in the 93rd minute, take United back top of the league, and just a tremendous. You could see again the relief in the stadium, first of all, but in the context of that season, in the context of winning the title, to get back to push back after losing those 2 games and after losing to Liverpool at home, After competing with Liverpool for the title, this was an extremely important game, an important 3 points. Just a tremendous goal. 2 on the turn, sort of collected it and then just really curled it into that far corner. Just bulged the back of the net. Tremendous.
And,
right, Pete. So from 2000.
Sorry, so I was just going to say that again, it took us back ahead of Liverpool because Liverpool were looking to win.
Yeah, which was key.
Yeah. That their first league. They were, in the end, they had to wait till 2020. But in 2009, it looked like they were going to do it. But we ended up doing it and got our second 3 back-to-back league titles.
Yeah.
Again, the first English side ever to do that.
It's just funny though when you're at 2-2 in the 80th minute and you can just see United need a bit of an injection, and you look at the bench and you're looking at Richard Eckersley, who ended his career here in MLS, Park Ji-sung, Darren Gibson, Lee Martin, Danny Welbeck, and Federico Makeda. You just needed that little bit of inspiration in that game. And that's just United, isn't it? Here's your chance. Here's your opportunity. Take it.
He scored a vital goal the week after, didn't he? Was it Sunderland?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Again, yeah. He scored the winners against Sunderland, I think. Yeah, you're right, Roy. And that was really it. That 2-week span for him was really it. And then he was off to Cardiff in 2014, I believe. And then a few loan spells in between that, and that was it. Right, Pete. Well, the last of each of our 2 ends with one of my favorite ever ones, Pete. My favorite ever Last Gasp United winners. Take it away.
Well, 3rd of March 2007, so around the same time as you just done the Makeda goal a couple of years earlier. And it involves John O'Shea scoring a last-minute winner at Anfield. Both Dennis Law in his time and Gary Neville in his time said that they used to dream about scoring the last-minute winner at Anfield. Dennis Law said, though, his dream turned into a nightmare because after scoring and celebrating, he actually fell into the Kop. So they wanted to score a last-minute winner at Anfield in front of the Kop, and Gary Neville, that's all he did, dream it. And Dennis Law actually did score a goal once in front of the Kop, but not in the last minute. But young John O'Shea did it on the 3rd of March 2007. And so we've moved on a bit from that first title I covered earlier of 1993. But in the years from 1993 to 2001, Fergie had seen United crowned champions of England 7 times. He'd won 2 doubles and he won the treble. But post-1999, his main aim, I think, was to add more Champions League titles to United's honours list. But as 2002 dawned, his great 99 side was waning, really. Europe had become a bridge too far. And Sir Alex was due to retire that year, but he did a U-turn to try and rebuild. But by that time, Europe, let alone trying to go for European honours, we were getting threatened on the domestic front because he grabbed the title in 2003 after he returned. But in 2004, you had Arsenal's Invincibles in the league, and you had Mourinho coming on the scene and winning the title at Chelsea in 2005 and 2006. So United had gone 3 years without winning the league, having won it almost every other year. But he was building a new side under around 2 young lads, Rooney and Ronaldo particularly. And it was ready to take United back to the top in 2006-07. They added Michael Carrick in the summer of 2006, and that was a very subtle addition. We topped the Premier League early doors and stayed neck and neck with Chelsea throughout that autumn of winter of 2006-2007. Chelsea were formidable at this time. They could put in very long unbeaten runs. And I think in the previous 2 years when they'd won the league, they'd amassed more than 90 points in total in each season, something that didn't happen until lately with City and Liverpool. But anyway, 1st of March 2007, and United are So 3rd of March 2007. United are 6 points ahead of Chelsea, but Chelsea had a game in hand, and we still had to go to Stamford Bridge in those last 10 games. So we were desperate to at least hold on to our lead. So we had to go to Anfield then, 3rd of March, and Liverpool hadn't lost a home league match for 17 months, around about a year and a half. They would, although they were nowhere in the title race, they'd be happy to beat United and put a spoke in our wheel, and that would cover their season of underachievement. So they were really baying for United's blood at Anfield. They'd have been happy to see the title go to London, like we was happy to see the title go to the Etihad 2 weeks ago. But to be fair, on the day, Liverpool were probably a better side and had more chances. But the defence in those days was Neville at the back four, Neville, Ferdinand, Vidic and Evra, and with De Gea behind them, with Edwin van der Sar behind them, we could really dig in. So we were trying to avoid defeat, really. A draw would have been okay. But 4 minutes from time, Paul Scholes got sent off for swinging a punch at Alonso. It was a stupid mistake. Not so much that he got sent off, but he actually missed Alonso. We really did have to dig in for that last 4 minutes. And a minute into extra time, United went on a rare sortie up the left-hand side towards the Kop and won a free kick on the corner of Liverpool's penalty area. Ronaldo stepped up and he kind of belted it in, curled it in, but hard and low. Pepe Renier, the Liverpool goalie, kind of got to it but spilt it because Zaha was challenging him. And the ball dropped like a gift from God right to John O'Shea's foot with a wide open goal. He couldn't miss it. None of us four would have missed it, let alone John O'Shea. And he belted it into the top right-hand corner, right on the death, right in front of the Kop. 1-0 to United, kept us at the top of the league, kept that gap with Chelsea, had the Scousers spitting bile at us. But the celebrations, 7 players ran towards O'Shea and tried to catch him, who was running around like a banshee at that stage. And at our end, the road end, you had Van der Sar and Gary Neville, and I think I can't remember who else it was, maybe Ferdinand, just were jumping up and down, almost falling into the United end to celebrate. You know, it was one of those goals you couldn't celebrate it enough. And anyway, we won the game. It kept us ahead in the title race. We'd win the league comfortably. And we'd go to Chelsea, already champions in the penultimate game, and get a guard of honour from Mourinho, which to the delight on the United away end at Chelsea that night. And it was the beginning of Fergie's third great side. We would go on to win the league in 07, 08, 09. We'd win 5 titles after that 07 one. We'd conquer Europe in Moscow, where we'd become world champions for the second time in our history, and then reach another 2 Champions League finals, which we lost. In my opinion, it did become United's greatest side, that 07 to 2013, I think. But that day at Anfield, dreams came true.
Let's take a look.
Battling Liverpool. Giggs and Ronaldo conspire. Ronaldo whips it. It's off Reina. It's John O'Shea. And Manchester United have won it at Anfield, surely. Moments after Van der Sar makes an absolutely crucial save. They go down the other end. And John O'Shea celebrates as if Manchester United have won the
The commentator finished off as if Manchester United won the title, because as you talked about, Pete, that was the dagger. And just absolutely incredible. I remember watching that game, and United were just under the cosh the whole second half. It was just, riding their luck, tremendous save, and then all of a sudden John O'Shea pops up with the beauty.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think we've done those 8 justice. Honorable mention for me, I think one I was thinking about was, I mean, there were so many of them, but the FA Cup, I forget what round it was, against Liverpool in '99, with Solskjaer popping up with the late winner. There was 2 late goals actually in that one with Andy Cole, and then Solskjaer popping up with the winner. But that kept us in the FA Cup and kept the treble alive. So that one for me, of course, gets an honorable mention, or I think for all of us an honorable mention. But obviously, the biggest last gasp winner in United's history. We'd be remiss if we didn't screen it and then share some of our memories.
Scored another in Europe. He's got one in Europe already. Scored another in Europe. He's got one in Europe already. In towards Schmeichel. It's come for Schmeichel. Clear. Giggs with a shot. Cherry. Name on the trophy. Teddy Sheringham.
Wow.
So many terrific memories. I'm sure all of us have of that one. It's poignant that it was Sir Matt's birthday that day as well, and just so many storylines. But maybe to finish off, lads, if you just want to share, what are your memories of that infamous day, infamous goal?
Well, I actually a year before we'd booked a holiday to go to Singapore and to Dubai, and when we won the cup against Newcastle, we were in Singapore, and the time difference there was 8 hours. So 3 o'clock kick-off in England. It was 11 o'clock over in Singapore.
Yeah.
And then we came from Singapore to Dubai, and the time difference with Dubai was about 4 hours. So again, the kickoff in Barcelona, it was about 11 o'clock at night again when the game kicked off. And of course, 1-0, 4 minutes to go. I did stick with it. But it's not looking good. We get the equaliser. I can remember jumping out of bed. I kicked my foot on the bottom of the. Yeah, that's good. And of course, as I got one hand in the air and the other holding it, we bloody scored again, didn't we? And that was fantastic. So that was where I was the night we won the treble.
Brilliant. How about yourself, Roger?
Well, I can remember because I'm pretty sure Bayern scored early in that game, and I sat there for almost an hour and a half thinking, well, this was an absolute anticlimax. My dad had come round to cut my front lawn for me because he's not a United fan. So I think he was probably going to take the mickey out of me if we'd lost. Anyway, I said to him, "Oh, there's about 5 minutes to go," and he came and took a seat on the other sofa. And as soon as Sheringham's goal went in, we were both leaping up and down in the room. But then I just had this calm come over me as soon as Sheringham scored, because I thought, if this goes to extra time, we've got them beat here, because if you look at the reaction of the Bayern Munich supporters on that clip, they were so gutted, because they'd all but won the game and they'd sucked the life out of United. I mean, in fact, I'm sure they hit the bar as well and should have scored.
Yeah, twice post end of crossbar.
I haven't done my research on the 99 game because it's just in my heart forever. But as soon as Sheringham's goal went in, the spirit of Fergie's teams, I thought, we'll be okay here. And then literally no sooner had we sat down from the first goal, there was another one. And it was the best time ever to be a United fan, bearing in mind, they'd done the treble. We know from sort of last week and the week before how much Liverpool wanted the quadruple. It doesn't matter how many times you win the FA Cup and the League Cup, it's not a treble. And I'll never forget those 2 or 3 weeks of being a United fan. Almost going all the way back to the semi-final at Villa Park when we beat Arsenal, when Peter Schmeichel made that save from Dennis Bergkamp. I started to believe that it was going to be a special year.
Yeah,
and of course, Giggs's last-minute equaliser in the home match with Juventus. I was in the stand that day. I mean, because Juventus had outplayed us, to be honest, hadn't they? In Old Trafford, Conte played that night for Juventus, and
did they score in the first minute at Old Trafford as well?
Early on, but they controlled the first half, definitely. But I mean, Giggs's equaliser 1-1 gave you hope, but of course 2-0 down over there, blimey.
Yeah, so many to choose from, wasn't there? Right, Pete. We're just over an hour here. Last word to you on Ole's winner, or anything else in terms of the goals that we've looked at.
Well, that one we just covered was the greatest last gasp winner in our history for sure. I think it's the best or the most crucial last gasp winner in any club's history. Nobody will win the top club prize like that. I don't think ever again. I don't think you could. So it was brilliant. But the thing about the night, and I was lucky enough to be in Barcelona, I was well away from Roy stubbing his toe or Roger there thinking that, it's a piece of cake now once Sheringham scored. I do remember it being 1-0 and the clock at the other end showing 90 minutes on it. And there's a big full moon that night as well. I just looked up to it and I didn't say a little prayer or anything like that. I remember just thinking, oh God, this is how it ends. Because since 1968, when I was 13 and I was now 45. My dream had been to see United win the European Cup again, because I thought in '68 that's what United did. We won European Cups year after year, and we didn't. It didn't materialise. So to wait 31 years, you very rarely in your life wait for something you want so much. 31 years, and when it came true, it was just unbelievable. And it took us, the lads I was with, it took us till we got outside the ground. Nearly an hour after to realise that goal had not only won the European Cup, it had won the treble. It might sound daft that now.
Yeah.
The focus was on that we wanted to be champions of Europe, just like your best Charlton had done, etc. in '68. So that was a night when dreams come true and we reached the promised land, and all those well-rehearsed ad-libs that the commentators came up with. Never to be forgotten, hopefully never to be repeated by a team that doesn't play at Old Trafford.
Indeed. Well, lads, this hour has flown by. Tremendous stuff, and thank you all for joining us that are watching. Thank you, Roy and Roger, again for joining me and Pete. Really good stuff.
Pleasure.
And if you're watching this and you want to watch some of our past episodes, if you click on the description or Twitter page, you'll see a link there to another Twitter page with all the episodes that you can watch. And like I said, this is 15. We've done 15 videos plus 2 Twitter Spaces. More Twitter Spaces to come. More to come from us. But for now, we bid adieu, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.